My name is Kesha. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm 39 years old. I was born in Santa Cruz, California in 1980 to a loving mother and father. They did not live together long. They raised me together until I was about 4 months old, and then he was kind of like, he came to visit me, and I would go to the Bay Area and visit him. I'm just going to tell you my background of my parents because I don't want to label them addicts, but they struggled with addiction. And in 1992, I lost my father to a suspected heroin overdose. My mother struggles with bipolar disorder, and she still does, but she's thriving now today. In 1995, I had my first drink. And I was trying to catch up with the Joneses, if you will, because I was held back as a child, and I have a cousin that is only 5 days older than me, and it really bothered me that she was able to go to high school before me, and I was still stuck in middle school. So when the Santa Cruz High was having their 1995 homecoming, and it was around my birthday in October, I decided to do something awesome. I said, you know what, I'm going to have a block party up on Western Drive, and I'm going to invite everybody in town, so they'll leave that homecoming and they'll come to my party. I was surprised with some friends that brought over some liquor that they stole from their parents' cabinet, and it was virtually pretty much like a Long Island iced tea. We've never tried alcohol at this point. So anyways, to make a long story short, my good friend, we had to call the ambulance because she drank too much. And from that moment forth, I was kind of labeled as the party person because people weren't able to hang out with me because of it. And the only way that I was able to hang out with my friend, that was my dear friend, she was the only one that knew my father. I went to Natural Bridges, and she was the only one that met my father. And she was taken away from me because her mother was like, nope, Kesha's too risky for you to hang out with. You can't hang out with her. So the only way that I was able to hang out with her was to become a cheerleader at Santa Cruz High and to kind of clean up my image. So I became a cheerleader at Santa Cruz High, but I had a double life because I still wanted to drink and I still wanted to be that other person. I was also raised as a Christian, as a Baptist, and here in Santa Cruz, and I still practice that, non-denominational. And so in 1998, I had my first child as I was a teen mother, and there was still alcohol in my story, but I was always like the protector, because I had the child. I always felt like because I almost lost my first best friend to alcohol, I consumed, but I was always on the edge and watching and trying not to consume too much because I wanted to make sure everybody was okay. So 1998, I had my first son. And I was young. I was 17 when I had him. His father was 16 at the time. And he drank a lot. And I felt like I had to watch him because I was the driver. I had the car. I had the baby. And I was kind of caravanning everybody to where they needed to go in Santa Cruz, but not consuming, but smoking a lot of pot, but not drinking enough. Because I had to watch everybody. I was a babysitter, not only for my child, but for everybody else. So I was always thinking, damn, when I get a chance, the wheels are going to come off. I'm going to be able to just do what I want to do. When couldn't wait till I was 21 because I was really going to be able to have some fun, right? So in 1999, I became an exotic dancer in San Francisco because I felt like that was a good way to make some money, and I made a lot of money until I found out people were having sex. And so I couldn't compete with that because I wasn't willing to do that. So but the way that I got through having to compete with these other women having sex for money, I drank. I would leave here, drive to San Francisco, do that job. I would come back here, and I did this between the ages of 19 until I was 21. I broke up with my first father of my child when I was 20 years old, and I continued to dance. I met my first husband when I was 21 years old. He was from Germany, And I only married him because I wanted the financial support, because he was really financially stable, and he was an exchange student, and he was going to Stanford, and we were dating, and he said his visa was up, and I was like, well, how about I just marry you, you know? And he was really financially stable, and I just wanted that financial stability. I didn't want to dance anymore. And so he knew I was a drinker when he met me, and he worked for Elixir Distributing, and that was another turn on because he worked for a beer company. And he you know, swooned me by giving me alcohol and filling up my refrigerator, and you know. So then after a couple of years of being married to him, in 2006, he told me, you know, if you don't stop this drinking, I'm going to have to leave you because you drink too much. I can't handle it. Like, you drink too much. And I was in denial. I'm like, what do you mean? Because I saw others drinking too much. And I was like, that's not me. I'm good. You know, and I'm missing out the fact that between 2002 and, you know, I got my first job. He put me through medical assisting school, and I worked for Palo Alto Medical Foundation, and I thought, I got a job, I can hit a vein, I can do all these, you know, venipuncture. I'm not an alcoholic, I'm a medical professional, right? I got this. But anyways, ultimately in 2007, I got a DUI, and shortly after that, my first husband filed for divorce, and he left me. At the time, I had my one child. But then I got back with my baby's father, and we had another child. We weren't in a relationship, so I drank over that after I gave birth to my second child. They both have the same father. So because I'm an alcoholic that just drags and drags and drags my hands and my feet, I did not allow my first husband to get the divorce until 2010. So finally, I signed the divorce papers in 2010, but obviously between 2007 and 2010, I drank through that whole issue. I was drinking and drinking and drinking. Didn't think that I had a problem. But my relationships were slowly starting to fall off everywhere. I was not progressing in the medical field where I was working. Everyone around me was gravitating and getting better, and they were going to school, and I was going to school for my prerequisites for nursing. But I didn't understand why it was so hard for me to complete all my classes. And I didn't understand. I just couldn't connect the dots. So in 2011, I started a new relationship. And I became pregnant with my third son. And then shortly after that, we decided to get married in 2012. And I thought that this guy was the perfect guy for me because he didn't complain about my drinking. He was a little younger than me. He was 24. I was 31 when we got married, and he wanted, and we planned our child together, and he was like, I want to marry you. And this was like the first time I felt like, you know, that I found my match. I found someone that really understood me. And it also helped that he was a friend of the family for the past 20 years. I already knew him, so I felt really comfortable with him. And I didn't feel like I felt like I can take off my mask, you know. So between 2012 and at this point, my oldest son was 13 years old, and my relationship was becoming estranged with him because of my drinking. And so he decided to leave the home at the age of 15, and he told me, Mom, I know how you used to be, and I just don't like what you've become, and I want to live with my father. So I had 2 kids in the home, and my 15-year-old at the time, he left. And it didn't bother me because, you know, I was like, you know, and my alcoholism was like, you know, you were a single mom with him for 10 years. He's spoiled. He was the only child for 10 years. You gave him everything. You stripped. You went to school. You did all that. So I got 2 other kids. That's how my mind worked. I didn't care. I didn't worry about it. I'm like, go ahead. Go ahead. You know, I got 2 other sons. Okay. So in 2014, my in-laws were nice enough to get us all tickets to go to New Orleans. And they also got at the time he was kind of a strange teenager. And even though we were really worried about it, we just brought him anyways. We went to New Orleans in 2014. And I was more excited about the alcohol in New Orleans and being in the French Quarters. I was more excited about that than all the museums and all the beautiful things around there. All I could think about is what I could get anywhere in this world. There. And I overdid it. I totally overdid it. I ended up getting into a horrible confrontation with my in-laws. I'm not going to go into detail, but it was horrible. I disrespected my in-laws to the point to where my children and I had to leave New Orleans, and my husband decided to stay behind. Even though we had 5 more days left in the trip, I had to leave early because of my alcoholism. Doesn't matter what happened, it was the alcoholism that put me there. I felt very scared. I'm from Santa Cruz, California. I haven't gone to many places. So like to be in New Orleans and to be out there with like 3 boys and not knowing how to switch over your plane, that was a big deal. I didn't have any money. They did get me a hotel, but we made it back to California. But from 2014 on, my relationship with my husband was a little rocky because I never really made up with my in-laws, and he's really close with his parents. So I kind of felt like we had this separate life, like I was his wife, but he had loyalty to his parents, and it was like we were always kind of on edge, like because we never resolved what happened in New Orleans. And the whole plan was to leave Santa Cruz and to buy a home in New Orleans eventually, because they were a big support system. Because my mother and my grandmother, I love them dearly, but they lean on me heavily, and I just wanted to leave. I just wanted to live my life and not be depended on by my family members. I just wanted to leave. So my drinking increased from 2014 to 2015. From 2015 to 2016, I don't remember. I said that I was 36 years old for 2 years because I don't remember those years. And my kids would have to remind me, you're 36, Mom. You keep on saying that you're, and also I just wanted to say that I drank over my father's death every year because, don't you know, I'm a fatherless child. And so I had to drink over his death. That's how I had to honor him, And don't you know, my mother is just so psychiatrically challenged. I have to drink over that, So continued to try to go to school. I worked at Palo Alto Medical Foundation until 2002. Then I went back to school to get my prerequisites. It was all blackout drunk state. Then finally, February 2nd of 2017, I was in a raging blackout alcoholic state. And I was arguing with my husband, and it was the eve of the birthday of my 4-year-old at the time. He was turning 5. At the time, I had my 5-year-old in the 4-year-old in the car, 8-year-old in the car, husband was driving. All I remember is that before we went to ice cream, my main concern was how much alcohol I can get down my throat before we left. Because that's a good idea, right? So I did all that, blacked out. I remember arguing with my husband in the blackout drunk state. I was in the back seat of the car with my babies. I stepped out the car while it was moving, hit the pavement, blood everywhere. Kids looking at me. My husband's like, stay in the car, stay in the car. He's trying to call the ambulance. They come get me. They can't treat me at Dominican because I have massive blood trauma, massive head trauma. They take me to, they had to helicopter me to San Jose Valley Medical February 2nd of 2017. Then after that, they said, you got to prepare her funeral possibly, because if the swelling doesn't go down on her brain, because that was like 2 in the morning, they kept giving me percentage of chances of making it. So they told my mother and my husband that they didn't think if I didn't get through them getting the swelling off my brain and draining everything, that I would never be the same, or I was going to die. I didn't die. I was unconscious for 4 days. I was in an induced coma. I had tubes in and out of me. I was in ICU for 9 days. And then, 60 days later, I started drinking in secret. I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell anybody. I started drinking in secret 60 days after that accident, all the way until December 31st of 2017, because I was just tired. I was starting to get DTs even when I was stopped for like 2-3 days. Like, I was horrible. It was bad. And I was just tired. And I literally was like, God, please save me. I don't want to die like this. And I saw my little kids dancing around, and I didn't even have the effort to like get a babysitter and go out on New Year's Eve, because that's what I used to do. Because I just wanted to sit in my house and get fucked up. That's all I wanted to do, because I didn't have the patience to be in a bar at all. And so anyhow, My last drink was December 31st of 2017, and then I finally came through the doors, I believe, right before it was my 30 days, and it was hard. It was hard to sit in these rooms. I wasn't for sure if I was an alcoholic, but you know, I kept coming back. You know, I started to feel like I didn't want to be with my second husband anymore because he kept bringing alcohol around me. He kept asking me to bring him alcohol. He struggled with not keeping it around me. You know, then finally when I was about 17 months sober, I asked him to leave. I asked him to leave because I didn't want to die, because I just didn't feel like, I mean, I would clean up and I would find all these little whiskey bottles and I would just always see like the little bit, and I would still feel like I could just take that and drink it. And like, in order for me to keep my area safe, my sanity, I had to ask him to leave. And that was hard. And it's still hard. And I miss him, my husband. I miss him so much. And he went to New Orleans, and I could have all these resentments and say what happened and what transpired in between. But the fact is, he's been the constant man in my life for the past decade. And I had to ask him to leave, to save myself. So we've been separated for a while, about 6 months, and we've decided to try to make it work possibly. But still, I don't even know if that's the right thing to do. So I keep asking my higher power to lead me, to help me. I keep coming back to these rooms. I do have little jobs here and there. I just keep doing the next right thing. I'm open to getting a sponsor. I go to Celebrate Recovery and also these AA secular meetings because it all works for me. It helps me remind me that if I keep coming back and I keep doing these steps, it's going to help me get through this. It's really hard, but I'm a believer in the higher power in these rooms, in this program. I used to like just laugh at this program because I thought it was full of shit, but it's not. So anyhow, I love you guys. I'm here. I'm almost 2 years sober next year, or next month. January 1st is going to be my 2-year date. And just thank you for being here. My name is Kesha, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. There's no topic.